The campaign for voting rights in Congress in D.C. has been going on for about 208 years. The complexities surrounding this issue are somewhat tense. I caught up with Alir Zurka, who is Executive Director for DC Votes, a nonprofit whose sole mission is to ensure that DC residents have voter representation in Congress. He was able to articulate the issues surrounding voter representation for the district's 600,000 plus residents.
And over the past about 50 years or so, the city has made a lot of progress toward full democracy. And by that we mean full and equal rights, right? Washingtonians want to be not special, they just want equal rights like other Americans. And what that's meant is a vote for president that occurred in the 60s, locally elected government, council and mayor, and that occurred in the early 70s. But we still haven't achieved full voting representation in Congress, and that's the next step, and that's what we're trying to get done now. Over the past 6 years, we've been pursuing passage of something we call the DC Voting Rights Act. And really that act is a down payment on full democracy. It's the first step, representation in the House of Representatives. And together with some Republicans and others, we put together what we thought was a compromise bipartisan piece of legislation, one that would expand the size of the House by 2, provide DC residents with a vote, and also provide the next state eligible with a vote. That state is Utah. The assumption was that that seat would be Republican, the DC seat would be Democratic, and we would have bipartisanship as a result. And so we've been working on that. This year it looked like we were on the fast track to being passed by the Congress and signed into law. And in the Senate, unfortunately, a group of senators led by Republican John Ensign attached an amendment to the bill that would strip the city of all of its gun laws, but also the ability to regulate guns in the future. And so now the bill's in the House. We've been struggling with how to move forward because of that amendment, because there is now an effort to do the same thing in the House. We have not moved the bill forward because we have not been able to separate the two. But we're working on that, and we're optimistic that in this Congress, given the support of the President, given the majorities we have in the House and the Senate for this bill, that we're going to find a way. I think it's going to have to be creative given the gun amendment. But my hope and expectation is that we'll get there. And for the first time in the history of the district since 1801, DC residents will have a voting member of the House of Representatives. But I think a lot of the opposition that we see to this is really based on partisanship. It's based on the concern that Washingtonians, once they get a vote in the House, will try to get representation in the Senate, and that Washington, if it had 2 senators, would send 2 progressive Democratic senators, two progressive folks to the Senate. So I think that that's the concern. People don't voice it. Elected officials in the Congress don't voice it publicly, but we certainly have heard it privately, and I think that that's the motivating factor.
This is Trevor Martin reporting from D.C. Thanks for tuning in. Don't look at me, can't you see?